Welcome to another episode of the MMA Lock-Cast. I'm your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter at MMA LOTN. This week we're going to go over a huge pay-per-view, UFC 238, 2 title fights, along with probably the greatest matchup in lightweight history in terms of entertainment value with Cowboy Cerrone and Tony Ferguson. I'm fucking jacked. So jacked. Fucking jacked. But we're going to kick this episode off with the casuals. My man Big Rob is here as always.
Yeah.
Hey. Before we kick this thing off, he introduced me to Dread Zeppelin. Had no idea who the fuck these people were. Apparently they're very big. They're fucking huge.
Toronto-based.
It's insane. If you guys don't know who they are, they're like a parody cover band for Led Zeppelin, but they're headed by a reggae artist and a guy that impersonates Elvis Presley and fucking sings like him. So go fucking check that out on YouTube because that shit is hilarious. And they actually make their Cashmere fucking cover was actually pretty good. I'll give that to them because it, like you were saying, it goes with the Elvis, the vocalist, right?
Yeah.
No, so I hear that for sure. So make sure you guys go check out Dread Zeppelin if you guys don't know who the fuck they are. But this past weekend at UFC Stockholm, we had a big event where 3 people ended up retiring. Pretty sad. But I think Stevie Ray might end up being one of them as well. It was a pretty devastating loss for him here against Leonardo Santos. And I'm going to show Big Rob a banger of a knockout. It was pretty fucking... It was like a sniper. I'll fucking show you exactly why. So we're going to kick it off with 2:55 remaining in the second round, or in the first round. And yeah, let's fucking get this going.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's coming.
Oh, whoa.
Didn't it look like he got hit by like a fucking, just a sniper, like just...
Yeah.
Fucking laid out.
Just taken right out.
Right? This guy's not even really a striker either. He's like a jiu-jitsu guy.
Oh my
he just ran out. I don't know. Security was horrible for this fight. Let me just say.
Oh, he just.
If the fighter is able to get backstage, and security is just fucking standing there doing nothing about it, they're clearly supposed to have some sort of rules and regulations regarding fighters leaving the cage.
That's wild.
But clearly they didn't give a fuck about this. But
they hit him. He
clean.
Oh.
Boom.
That's it. That was it.
One shot, completely like fucking charged up with that one too. Oh.
So the first one hit him kind of.
The first one was more so to get your distance.
Yeah.
You get that distance, now you know how far he is, and then boom, you bring in that right hand.
Oh.
And they finally got him back. This was his first fight in like 2.5 years. Like he was out for a while for some reason.
It's like a double tap. Boom, boom.
Fucking nuts was that. Show me another fucking... Let's go back and see that replay.
Yeah.
Poor Stevie Ray.
Oh, man. Okay.
It was more like a palm.
Wow.
It was more like a palm. Like that, where he touches his head right before. See that?
Yeah.
That's more sort of gauge the distance. And then he knows how far he really has to go with that right hand to get that type of a fucking finish. I doubt he knew he was going to finish him with that, but... Fucking paid off.
Connected.
Insane. Leonardo motherfucking Santos. This guy's 39 though, so he's kind of on the tail end of his career, unfortunately. Guys normally last to like, they're in their peak and like between 30 and 34, I'd say.
Okay.
And then they start to...
And then, yeah.
Oldest ever champion was a guy that was 43 in the heavyweight division because heavyweight's not the most talent-rich division, right?
Okay.
And this guy had a solid wrestling background. He just came in and fucking whooped these guys. I don't know. Randy Couture, I'm not sure if you've heard of that guy before. Probably seen him. But yeah. Fucking crazy finish by Leonardo Santos there.
Like, out of all the ones you showed me, I think this is the one where someone went down like that fast.
That was crazy, eh?
Yeah.
Like
so direct. It wasn't even
the
like...
fall, too.
Yeah.
That added to the aesthetics of it, right? It made it more entertaining and pleasing.
Couldn't even wake the guy up. They were like rubbing his head.
I know. He was fucking out.
Yeah.
That was crazy. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate you as always. Let's fucking get into UFC 238. But first we got to go over UFC Stockholm, which was this past weekend. Took a very minimal, slight loss, minus 0.64 units. Not too mad about that. Luckily for you guys, the next events are going to be free. So after going for 2 straight paid events, take a very minimal loss here at UFC Stockholm. However, my policy is my policy, and I'm if it means I got to give you guys free picks again, so be it. So you guys are going to be getting 3 straight events as long as I get all W's. The 4th event moving forward will be paid picks again. So, keep track on my website, MMALOTN.ca. I'll be posting all my picks there. I already have 3 picks already posted, and obviously I'll go over them in this podcast. Next 3 events free. Don't know how long that's going to last. Hopefully we can string together 3 more wins and then get right back into the fucking green. So, UFC Stockholm, my lock of the night play. Let's just start off with that. 5 units on Alexander Rakic at -199. Beautiful odds, beautiful finish. Almost went to a T how it should go. You know what I mean? With a guy who hits as hard as Alexander Rakic, and for a guy who has such a suspect chin in Jimmie Manuwa, it kind of went how it should have went, and that's why it was my fucking lock of the night play. I didn't think that there was an easier, bet on this card, other than maybe the inside the distance for Rakic. But one of the plays that I ended up poking a little bit as a normal play, I was close to making my lock of the night play as well, but thankfully I did not. And I am talking about the Daniel Tamor and Sung Bin Jo fight. I bet 2 units on the fight doesn't go to decision at -185, I believe it was. Whiffed on that one, unfortunately. Another one that we whiffed on was kind of a surprise. Tanya Avenger and Gustafsson parlay. I had 1.5 units on that at -122. Avenger goes out there and lays an egg. It's insane seeing some of these people be able to make such a massive improvement in their grappling games. But you could also kind of attest this to Tanya Avenger's, imminent decline. She's up there in age. She has a lot of wars on her belt. She may not be as strong as some of these younger girls now, so it's going to be harder to implement these games. And it seems like she got really tired. She's known to have some cardio. She's known to be able to grind girls and outwork them, but she was just not able to do it here with Lena Landsberg, and it was very, very surprising. So, my main concern on this parlay was actually going to be Alexander Gustafsson. I had a little bit of a bad feeling about it, which is why I only did 1.5 units. Stylistically, this is a fight that Gustafsson and Avenger should win hands down. However, there are always external factors that, as gamblers, we have to be cautious of. And unfortunately, both of those things came into play here. It didn't hurt as much when Gustafsson lost, since Avenger already lost, but it was a very, very much a surprising development when both Tony Avenger and Alexander Gustafsson took their losses. Another loss that was taken on my half. Hashtag always tired, yo. It is 8:15 on Tuesday. 8:15 p.m. I should say, on a Tuesday after I worked a long fucking day and all this other shit anyway. Y'all don't want to hear my sob story. But my next play that I unfortunately lost was I had Damir Hadzovic to win inside the distance. I had 0.75 units at +165. I thought it was great odds. We saw Giagos, fade in prior fights, and I thought that Damir was going to be able to capitalize on that flaw that Christos had. However, Christos was able to keep it together, win enough of the rounds, and easily survive and get that decision victory over Hadzovic. So props to anybody that played Giagos. I could definitely see the path to victory there. I was very much on the Hadzovic train pre-tape, and I kind of leaned off of it a little bit, but still like the value that I was getting on the Hadzovic inside the distance, which is how I thought he would have won. However, he didn't win. Giagos was able to pull out the decision victory, minus 0.75 units there. And then lastly, I had my dog of the night play, which was under 2.5 on the Makwan Amirkhani and Chris Fishgold fight, 1 unit at +110. I thought it was, at dog money, it was definitely worth the play, considering a guy like Fishgold, kind of gasses, really starts to suck wind at times, and, he had the hands to possibly knock out Amirkhani, but Amirkhani has the the craftiness on the ground to be able to catch a submission on Chris Fishgold, which is what he did. I had Chris Fishgold winning the fight. I thought he was going to win the fight. I picked him to win the fight. However, Amir comes out with the victory here. However, we cash regardless with the under 2.5 as my dog of the night play. So with all that said, minus 0.64 units. Unfortunate loss there, but we're fucking back at it. 3 straight free pick events for you guys. So again, check my Twitter at MMA LOTN. Or check the website at mmalotn.ca for all my picks. And I got at least 2 more plays that I'm going to make this week, and I currently already have 3. So UFC 238, very, very fun card, top to bottom. This is one of those cards where I'm going to go over to Tony's house to watch this shit. And normally the first 2-3 fights, we kind of dick around. Maybe we'll watch or we'll play Call of Duty while we have the fights on like a tablet or something. Or we're just, we're fucking around doing whatever, not really paying attention to the fights. However, this card, I'm going to tell Tony, fuck you, sit the fuck down, and we're going to watch these fights from beginning to end. Maybe to the Katlyn Chookagian and the Joanne Calderwood fight, we'll throw on fucking some COD or something like that. But I do have a bet on Joanne Calderwood, so I'll probably try to beg against that. So let's just fucking get, you know what? Actually, quick thoughts. Katlyn Chookagian versus Joanne Calderwood to kick off the card. Great fight, at least in terms of rankings of that division. Eddie Wineland's fucking around again. Bevon Lewis against Darren Stewart, I think, is going to be a barn burner. Xiaonan Yan against Angela Hill is a great fight for Yan as well to kind of finally cement herself among the strawweights and show that, I'll finally get a name under my belt. So that should be a good victory for her there. Ricardo Lamas against Calvin Kattar. Karolina Kovacevic against Alexa Grasso. Pedro Munhoz against Aljo. How the fuck is Pedro Munhoz against Aljo on the prelims? And Jimmie Rivera and Petr Yan is on the main card. I know Petr Yan is must-see TV. I completely understand with that. But rankings-wise and where these guys are, obviously Aljo and Pedro Munhoz are much closer to a title shot than I believe that Petr Yan and Jimmie Rivera are. I think regardless of what happens in the Yan and Rivera fight, both of those guys are going to need at least one more victory before they can get a title shot, which is why that Pedro Munhoz against Aljamain Sterling is, in my opinion, the next number 1 contender fight. So they should definitely be up there. Don't know why. Tatiana Nurmagomedova Suarez, she's fucking back. I don't really give a fuck too much about Tuivasa, Ivanov. Jimmie Rivera against Petr Yan, amazing fucking fight. Valentina Shevchenko against Jessica Ai. Valentina Shevchenko. Cejudo Moraes, amazing fucking fight right off the top, or to cap off the card. But the people's main event, Tony Ferguson against Donald Cerrone, amazing fucking fight. Donald probably shouldn't have taken that fight. Tony Ferguson doesn't need to fight anybody other than Khabib or whoever holds the fucking belt. Regardless, we're getting this fight because they're both warriors. They both love to fucking fight, and it's going to be a fucking crazy fight. So I'm happy regardless. Let me take a quick sip of water before we get into this fucking madness, because I'm losing my breath. Or losing my voice, I should say. All right, let's kick this motherfucker off. Katlyn Chookagian versus Joanne Calderwood. Like I said off the top of the Quick Thoughts preview, I got a bet on Joanne Calderwood, 1.25 units at minus 102. I thought that's great value for a girl that pushes the pace a little bit more than Katlyn Chookagian in terms of effective striking and effective actions towards a win. Katlyn Chookagian has lost a lot of fights due to, I shouldn't say a lot, I'm sorry, has made fights a lot closer than they should be due to her lackadaisical approach in terms of being active, but like being active in a not so active way. It's weird to kind of explain. She keeps the fight very close. She never really throws it too much heat. She only has 1 fucking stoppage on her record, I believe. Sorry. 3 stoppages on her record, but the last one isn't since March of 2016. Since then, she has had she's gone 4-2, all decisions. This last one against Jessica Ai was a split decision loss. For a girl that's as credentialed and well versed in jiu-jitsu as she is, I'm very surprised we haven't seen her lean on that a little bit more. She loves that, being on her bicycle type of style. She loves to kind of like, hit and get out of the way. But like, again, it's just not too much of a hit. Like the Jessica fight was super close because she knew, when Katlyn was coming in, she was able to catch her. I think Joanne Calderwood is going to have just as much success as Jessica on the feet, probably even more. And I think that she'll have no issue kind of grinding this fight, getting the better of the clinch exchanges, and I think that she's going to beat up Katlyn Chookagian's leg, and I think that's going to be a big determining factor in this fight. I love that the fights are pick-em odds. I love that I only have to put down 1.25 units at minus 102 because, I bet against Joanne Calderwood in her last fight, and there's a reason I did. I don't think that she's the greatest out there, but I think that she has the advantages here and the aggressiveness to take rounds away from Katlyn Chookagian, who is going to be active regardless for 3 rounds. But again, her lackadaisical approach to being active is going to be her downfall in this fight. And I think that's where Joanne Calderwood is going to be able to capitalize. And that's why I have a bet on her at 1.25 units. I'm going to say that she wins by decision. She'll probably take at least the first 2 rounds, with clinch work, with good striking. And unless we see a Katlyn Chookagian go for like a takedown and try to implement her jiu-jitsu, which, again, we have yet to see, I don't think that we see her get the victory here. So I'm going to go with Joanne Calderwood by decision, but I wouldn't wager more than like 1.5 to 2 units on that. But myself, I put 1.25 units at minus 102. For some reason, the UFC does not have the next fight, which is supposed to be Eddie Wineland against Grigorii Popov. They don't have that fight listed on their website on the fight card because, they love marketing their fighters. But we're going to go over it quickly while you guys can take a quick look at Bevon Lewis and Darren Stewart on the slideshow. Eddie Wineland's coming off 2 losses to John Dodson and Alejandro Perez. I'm still surprised he's kicking it around. He's 37 fights deep into his UFC career now, his MMA career, and he's just never anywhere. Like he's losing a couple fights and then he wins a fight. So just look at this, just hear this stretch from when he came to the UFC. 2 losses, then 2 wins, then 1 loss, then 1 win, then 2 losses, then 2 wins, then 2 losses. Is it going to be 2 wins now? Or is it going to be 3 losses and then 3 wins and then 4 losses? You guys get where the fuck I'm going? Regardless, this all comes down to actual styles. Grigorii Popov is a very good Muay Thai fighter. He trains out of Tiger Muay Thai. I saw a lot of good things with him on tape in terms of his technique. However, I don't know. His jiu-jitsu is decent enough to the point where he's able to pull off at least 2 gogoplatas in his last 4 years, at least in the last 4 years that he's been competing. However, he's doing it against these guys that are 0-1 and 3-2. So we had this similar conversation about somebody last week, I can't remember who it was, regarding their level of competition and how legitimate some of these wins should actually be. We know Eddie Wineland has fought the best of the best. We know Eddie Wineland has fought, the Renan Barraos when Renan Barao was a monster. The Brian Caraways, say what you want about Brian Caraway, but he was a talented fighter. Yves Joboin, Takeo Mizugaki, Frankie Saenz, John Dodson, Alejandro Perez, who has been looking really good as of late too, Brad Pickett, Scott Jorgensen, Joseph Benavides, Uriah Faber. This guy has fought the best of the best, and he's put up a bit of a fight. He's only been stopped by Johnny Eduardo, Renan Barao. Yes, those are the only guys he's been stopped by in the UFC. So, this is going to be a very tough out for Grigorii Popov in his UFC debut. And so, which is, the fact that it's a UFC debut is another reason I'm leaning towards Eddie Wineland. I think he is going to have the success, in the changing of the phases of this fight in terms of going from striking to grappling to clinch to all that. I think he's going to have the more well-rounded game here. Grigorii Popov is 14-2. Has plenty of experience, but again, it's against guys that are, let's just fucking do the math here. 8, 9, 12, 12, 27, 31, 33, 37, 42, 46, sorry, 42, 45, 49. So where's that? 49 and 4, 6, 12, 18, 19, 20, 24, 25, 27, 28. 49 and 28. But a lot of these guys that you're fighting have no more than 6 fights. 5-1, 3-2, 1-0, 3-0, 15-4. So that's one of the guys, and he lost to that guy. 0-1, 0-0, 0-1, 4-0, 2-0, 4-2, 5-6, 0-0, 3-2, 4-4. Why the fuck are you fighting a guy that's 4-4 when you've been on such a tear as well? You know, this guy has won 3, 5, 10 straight fights. So 9 straight fights before he fought his last fight, where he went against a guy that was 4-4. Before that, against a guy that was 3-2. Before that, a guy that was 0-0. What the fuck? And that guy still hasn't fought since that fight, which was in November of 2017. So what the fuck are we doing with the level of competition, guys? I'm going to take Eddie Wineland here by, let's say, 3rd round TKO. Let's say he just puts it on Popov for that most of that fight, sticks around, and then pushes the pace in that 3rd round and gets the victory there. But I'm taking motherfucking Grigorii Popov. I missed 2 things that I wanted to do before actually getting into this card, but we will do it at the end of the show. All right, next up is the actual fight that you guys see on the screen right now, Bevon Lewis against Darren Stewart. Bevon Lewis is coming off a loss to Uriah Hall in a fight that he looked pretty fucking good in. You know, after watching his Alton Cunningham fight and Uriah Hall fight, you can tell this guy is a very unorthodox-ish striker that is very explosive and able to, you know, have success with a lot of his blitzes. You know, there's a reason he was able to finish Alton Cumming so quickly. You know, three minutes into that first round, but just being so diverse and different with his striking, I think is going to be a problem for a lot of guys. That's a tough task, though, against a guy like Darren Stewart, who packs a lot of power. I don't expect this fight to really be contested in the clinch. I don't expect these guys to really be going for takedowns much. I think they're going to want to see if they can land, who can land first and who can land the hardest, and see who will go down first. I'm going to have to give the edge to Bevon Lewis here, however. I like his size. I like his speed. I like his ability to get in and out of these spots. You know, Uriah Hall kind of caught him, and that was his first loss, but I think he's going to learn a lot from there and kind of like shore up that little hole. It was just a one little blip. Joe Rogan said it perfectly on the broadcast. He zagged when he should have zipped, vice versa. Unfortunate for him, but he looked really good for roughly 11 minutes of that fight until he was eventually caught by Uriah Hall. The one thing that you can give Bevon Lewis a knock on is kind of his cardio. You know, he's really slowing down near the end of that 2nd round. In the 3rd round, he was coming out a little bit slow, and that probably was why Uriah Hall was able to land that perfect shot. However, I don't think this fight is going to go that long. I think it will last probably a round and a half, maybe less. And I definitely like Bevon Lewis here. And I'm leaning, I guess since my picks are free now, I'm leaning towards making this this fight does not go to decision as a lock of the night play. I'm trying to see where that line goes. I'm going to let the week go on a little bit because lines usually shift, and I haven't been the best at predicting lines. But you know, I think that maybe we could get better than -185, which is currently what it's at. But I'm going to take Bevon Lewis here. I think that he finishes Darren Stewart end of the 1st round, near the end of the 1st round, and gets a victory there and gets back into his winning ways. Next up is a fight that I'm very excited for, strictly because of one girl. Xiaonan Yan against Angela Hill. I love this fight for Yan. You know, she's fought Katlyn Curran, Viviane Pereira, and Suri Kondo in her UFC run, but this is arguably the biggest name that she's fought. And you know, Angela Hill is not the most famous fighter out there or anything like that. However, she is still a name that people will be like, oh, she beat Angela Hill? Okay, maybe this girl is kind of legit. I think the style that Angela Hill or is going to be bringing into this fight kind of plays right into Jan's hand. You know, Angela Hill might try to fuck around and go for a takedown here, which got her into trouble in the Randa Marcos fight that she had. But I think that we all know that this fight is going to be contested on the feet. I think that Jan is the stronger fighter here as well, so I think that her takedown defense is going to hold true, and she'll be able to stuff any type of grappling Angela Hill tries to implement here. But I think Angela Hill is going to have a really rough time on the feet. I think she's going to, fade and falter under the power and striking ability of Jan, and the viciousness that she brings into the cage. I think that's just going to be too much for Angela Hill. I think that Jan is going to burst onto the scene. I wouldn't be surprised to see her get a late finish here. However, it's a women's fight. Not trying to be sexist. But I think this fight's going to go to a decision. I'm going to take Jan by brutal 3-round beatdown of Angela Hill. She's deserving of the odds that she's at, and I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up, come fight day, possibly have her in a parlay, because I probably wouldn't play her straight up minus 200, minus 185. But I still think she rolls in this fight, and she's going to have much success. So I'm taking Xiaonan Yan by decision. Next up, we got Ricardo Lamas against Calvin Kattar. Very interesting that Calvin Kattar has been getting a lot of love from a lot of people throughout this fight week. Yet the line is not as big as I thought it would be. So right now, Calvin Kattar is sitting around minus 157-ish, minus 160. Return on Ricardo Lamas at plus 143. So I kind of like Ricardo Lamas at dog money here, I'm not going to lie. I'm very tempted to bet him at dog money here. You know, a lot of people like to overlook Ricardo Lamas in the Dennis Bermudez fight. He was kind of overlooked. That was a while ago. He was overlooked in the Charles Oliveira fight. The Jason Knight fight, he was very much overlooked. You know, that was kind of the beginning of the end of Jason Knight's career. And then I got a lot of shit from people for betting Ricardo Lamas against Darren Elkins, but I thought it was a very, very, obvious fight. Ricardo Lamas is not going to fucking gas like a Mirsad Bektik. And speaking of that Mirsad Bektik fight, he was kind of in that fight too. It was in his hometown of Chicago. It was a split decision loss, but he showed that he could still hang with some of these guys. And I think he's going to have a lot of success with Calvin Kattar in implementing his wrestling style. Calvin Kattar is a very, very impressive striker. He's coming off a great victory over Chris Fishgold where he knocked him out in the first round. And I think he could have some success against Ricardo Lamas here on the feet. However, I don't think that he's going to have much success when it comes to the grappling. And when Ricardo Lamas starts to, close the distance and tries to, reduce the impact of some of these punches from Calvin Kattar simply by grappling him, getting a hold of him, and probably taking him down. We've seen Calvin Kattar get taken down by Chris Fishgold, but we saw that he was able to get back up pretty quickly. I'm going to rate Ricardo Lamas slightly better, or, definitely better than Chris Fishgold in keeping guys down. But I do expect Calvin Kattar to be able to get off of a couple of these Ricardo Lamas takedowns. But I don't think Ricardo Lamas' striking is the worst. I don't think Calvin Kattar is going to be able to knock him out. I got to go with Ricardo Lamas here. I'm going to go with Ricardo Lamas by decision. I think we see a vintage Lamas performance where he, perfectly incorporates all aspects of MMA with his striking and his grappling, mainly his grappling, and he gets this fight into a range which is more preferential for him, which is him in top position, him kind of holding position, and landing the better damage here. So I want to see where the line goes. I think the love for Calvin Kattar is going to continue to come in. However, I'm going to be on the opposite side of the boat and probably put at least 1.5 to 2 units on Ricardo Lamas. If he hits plus 150, I'll probably pull the trigger at that point. But currently, the best I can get is plus 143. So I'm going to wait it out a little bit. It's still Tuesday. It's still early. But at least I can let you guys know that is who I'm thinking of. And I know, whatever I say is not going to significantly influence the betting line. So I'm happy to fucking say it and let you guys know. But when that day comes where my advice will shift lines, I'm going to shut the fuck up. Unless you pay me. Or if my picks are free. Whatever. Anyway, let's move the fuck on. Like I said, I got Ricardo Lamas by decision. over Calvin Kattar. Next up, we got Karolina Kavakovic against Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso is coming back from an unfortunate mauling via Tatiana Suarez. Luckily for her, it only lasted 2 minutes. I was going to say 2 hours. Luckily for her, it only lasted 2 minutes and 44 seconds of that first round, where Tatiana was able to get the rear naked choke really quickly. You know, we see when Tatiana Suarez goes in with some of these girls, she is just leagues and levels above them. You know, I'm going to get into Tatiana a little bit more, but that Carla Esparza fight for her was just fucking insane and just shows you how good this girl really is. But getting to the girls that are actually up right now. Oh, motherfucker. Alexa Grasso against Karolina Kavakovic. I think this is going to be primarily a stand-up fight. I think both girls possess a lot of skill on the feet, and I think that they're both going to be very kind of have a little bit of an ego and a lot of confidence in their striking ability, and I think it's going to go I think it's going to be very close. I think that the fact that Karolina is a little bit of a heavier favorite, she's currently at, oh, wow. This line's significantly closed from the last time I seen it. Last time I saw it was roughly around -150 for Karolina. Now it's sitting at -112. It's pretty much a pick'em now. That's fucking insane. Yes, this is exactly where I think the fight should be lined. You know, -110, -115-ish for either girl. I'm completely agreeing with that. I think that, you know, a lot of people are slowly looking over the fact that Alexa Grasso, you know, she was a kind of a heralded prospect coming into the UFC. You know, she beat Jodie Escobar in her last fight coming into the UFC, and then beat Heather Jo Clark. Lost a decision to Felice Herg, which was very surprising. Then had a split decision over Randa Marcos, and then unfortunately ran into Tatiana Suarez after that. She's still very young. I think she has a lot to learn, but she has a very good matchup in front of her in terms of allowing her to show her skills. I think that we're going to see Alexa Grasso get the victory here over Karolina Kavakovic, which kind of fucking hurts because I really like Karolina, and I think that she, you know, it's unfortunate the loss that she took to Michelle Warrison, where she was out-grappled in very important and significant moments of each of those rounds, which made her lose those rounds. And I think that I wouldn't even be surprised to see Alexa Grasso kind of take this fight to the ground and get the chips more so in her corner a little bit, you know, make it a little bit more decisive for herself. However, I can't trust that Alexa Grasso is going to do that. I think this is mainly going to be a stand-up war. And either way, I would take the underdog no matter who it is. And currently it's Alexa Grasso. So even though the line has really closed, she is still the underdog. And I definitely feel safer taking the underdog in a bet that's going to be very fucking close here in Alexa Grasso and Karolina Kavakovic. So my pick is Alexa Grasso by decision. Very unfortunate for Karolina, but I think that Alexa Grasso is going to come back and remind people why she was such a huge prospect. Next up, we got a very important fight in the bantamweight division between Aljamain Sterling and Pedro Munhoz. Very, very big fight. Pedro Munhoz is coming off of 3 straight wins. Brett Johns, Brian Caraway, and then Cody Garbrandt. You know, Cody was having a lot of success on the feet until he got fucking pissed off due to an inadvertent headbutt, and then kind of paid for it, throwing bombs with Pedro Munhoz. Not a good idea, especially when you have very evident chin issues and you're trying to distance yourself from those. However, Pedro Munhoz eventually finds his fist on Cody Garbrandt's chin, puts him out, and cements himself in pretty much a number one contender fight against Aljamain Sterling here. I think no matter who wins here, they are deserving of the next shot. The winner of the main event should definitely be fighting Aljamain Sterling or Pedro Munhoz. So breaking down this fight, Aljo is also coming off of 3 straight victories. Brett Johns, Cody Stamann, and Jimmie Rivera. I was a long time Aljo hater. I was a big Aljo lover when he was first bursting onto the scene, then I kind of started hating him. Don't know why, but now I'm a believer once again. And I think the kind of game plan that he implemented on Jimmie Rivera was the perfect fucking thing that he needed to do. People can say what they want about Jimmie saying that he didn't show up for that fight or, he just wasn't there. No, it was what Aljamain Sterling did, implementing a grapple-heavy style in that first round and then kind of just playing on the outside and kicking a lot in the next 2 rounds. it really stifled Jimmie Rivera's potential offense. And, Aljamain Sterling was able to come up with a unanimous decision victory there. I think we're going to see not the same type of style here against Pedro Munhoz. I think that Pedro is going to be significantly at the mercy of the reach disadvantage here, which is exactly, what do we got? 71 inches for Aljo and 65 inches. So it's roughly around a 6-inch reach advantage for Aljo. But again, those kicks, the long legs of Aljo and his awkward style of throwing those kicks out, I think it's going to be very interesting for Pedro Munhoz to try and get around that stuff. I don't think he's going to be able to. I think Aljo's going to have the perfect set of range. I think that if Pedro even wants to try to take this fight to the ground, that Aljo's going to have the wrestling and the defensive wrestling to keep this fight on the feet. So, Pedro throws with heat. His stand-up is definitely getting better, but I hope he hasn't, just for his sake, I hope he hasn't fallen in love with his hands, thinking, look, I just knocked out Cody Garbrandt. I could probably do that to anybody in the world. And he completely forgets about his jiu-jitsu, which, is his strength. He likes to walk forward a lot. He likes to put on pressure. He likes to throw bombs. But I think he's going to be eating a lot of kicks from Aljo here. And I think that Aljo will do what he needs to do to keep this fight on the outside. And then, have his defensive wrestling there to bail him out if Pedro decides to take this fight to the ground. So I really like Aljo here. The one part, I had hinted at a possible parlay earlier today, but I did like possibly Xiaonan Yan and Aljo parlay, but I see that we have Aljo at minus 122 now. So maybe even a straight play on Aljo here is what I might do. But, I bet on Pedro Munhoz in that last fight. I thought that it was a lot of disrespect, roughly around plus 200 for Pedro Munhoz, especially with the guy who throws so much heat against a guy who just recently had significant chin issues. So it was a nice cash when Pedro Munhoz got that victory. But I think his run stops here, unfortunately, against Aljamain Sterling, who's, in my opinion, I think it's really his time, and he's going to definitely get a well-deserved title shot after this fight, even though, I'm not going to say who I think wins the main event, but, he has that loss to Marlon Moraes, but I think it's something that definitely you can run back, especially with the streak that Aljamain Sterling is currently on. So I'm going to take Aljo by decision here. I think he outpoints Pedro Munhoz and gets the victory via decision. Next up, we got Tatiana Nurma, motherfucking Suarez. I love this girl. She is such a beast. She's fighting in Nina Ansaroff. This girl is the number one contender. After this fight, get her a motherfucking title shot. That's it. Get her a title shot. She will rule this division for years and years to come. How old is she? Because if she is young as y'all are fucked, she's 28. We got roughly 8 years of Tatiana Suarez coming at you guys after she mops the floor with Nina Ansaroff here. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We all know what the fuck is up. Tatiana Suarez, the abilities that she showed in her fight against Carla Esparza are just fucking insane. She out-grappled a very impressive grappler in Carla Esparza, and she made it look easy. Even when Carla Esparza had reverse positions and got up, Tatiana Suarez, threw a 1-2, threw a kick, and then just got right back on her double and was able to get the takedown. She had no issues getting this fight to the ground, showed slight issues in keeping the fight where she wanted it to be, but showed great amounts of discipline and skills to get this fight back into her favor. So I think she is continuously growing. I think she's continuously going to get better, and she's definitely going to get the victory here against Nina Ansaroff. And I don't want to give Nina too much shit. I mean, she has looked good in the last several fights. She's beaten Jocelyn Jones-Lieberger. She beat Angela Hill. She beat Randa Marcos. And now she just recently beat Claudia Gadelha in a fight that I know stunned a lot of people, including myself. She showed off a great calf kick, and then she pretty much out-cardioed Claudia Gadelha and then just ran away with the fight at the end there. But it was interesting that Claudia Gadelha was not able to get anything pretty much off. She handily lost that fight. So Nina Ansaroff definitely showed improvements. I think a lot of it has to do with ATT as well. I think they're doing a lot of good things with her. However, I don't think they can do anything or enough to even beat a girl like Tatiana Suarez. So she may have the advantage here in terms of experience. She has doubled the amount of fights as Tatiana Suarez, but I think that's the only thing she has going for her. And there's an absolute reason why fucking Tatiana Suarez is minus 855 against Nina Ansaroff here, and I'm not mad about it at all. So Tatiana Suarez via submission. I'm going to say first round submission. All right, next up, we got Tai Tuivasa against Blagoy Ivanov. Blagoy. I just love saying his name. Tai Tuivasa is coming off a loss to Junior Dos Santos. Unfortunate since he was headlining in his pretty much his home country. And then he goes out there and gets KO'd halfway into that second round. He shows weird flashes of power. Most of his fights none of his fights have gone past the first round really until he fought Andrei Arlovski, which was his 9th fight. He showed composure. He was able to stay in that fight and then eventually got the decision there. But there were a lot of scary moments for him. And I think in a fight against Blagoy Ivanov, who's a veteran of the game, 19 fights, 17-2, I think that he has the potential ingredients to give Tai Tuivasa some trouble. Blagoy has a great chin. Hasn't been finished from my understanding yet. Well, he got choked up by Alexander Volkov. I definitely don't think we're going to see a choke by Tai Tuivasa here or any type of ground implementation for Tai Tuivasa. Blagoy is a great Sambo martial artist as well. He showed. I thought he lost that Ben Rothwell fight. It was very close in that third round. The first half of that third round was kind of Ben Rothwell, and then later Blagoy kind of had his success as well. So he showed that he could really go 3 rounds and do a solid 3 rounds. So he may have the advantage there in Tai Tuivasa. I think there is definitely a little bit of interest on my side in terms of dog money on Blagoy Ivanov. I think that he might be technically the better fighter here in Tai Tuivasa, but Tai Tuivasa has the youth and he has the explosiveness and the power. But I don't think that he's going to knock out Blagoy here. I think that he's going to have a little bit of trouble landing cleanly on Ivanov, and I think that's why that Ivanov is going to be able to stay composed, counter strike a lot. Tai Tuivasa really leaves himself open when he tries to blitz and land big shots. So my only concern with Blagoy is maybe his lack of output at times. Maybe he might give a round or two away, and that's definitely concerning. But considering the skill sets here, I definitely like Blagoy. I might actually make a dog play on him as well. I want to see where the line goes. It's kind of closing right now, but I think the best line you can get is plus 130. I want to see where that line goes. I think Tai Tuivasa's kind of flash in a pan. Unfortunately, unfortunately I call it that way. I think it's kind of over. When you start fighting guys that are technically as good as a Blagoy Ivanov, you could say Andrei Arlovski's kind of in that realm too, but he made that fight a lot closer than it could have been. So I'm going to go with Blagoy by decision. I will give it to Tuivasa. He can take some damage. The Dos Santos one was just, dumb luck in terms of, getting into that spot, and not dumb luck, sorry. It was just unfortunate that he got into that spot, and with Dos Santos on top of him, I don't think that Blagoy is going to get it there, but I think that he's going to be able to do enough on the feet and kind of just win enough exchanges to get a judge's decision. So I'm going to go with Blagoy Ivanov by decision. Next up, we got Jimmie Rivera versus Petr Yan. This is a great fucking fight. Doesn't deserve to be higher on the card than Pedro Munhoz against Aljamain Sterling due to rankings and due to significance of each guy. But I think that out of the 4 guys, the most exciting for me and the guy that I'm looking forward to the most is Petr Yan. I'm glad he's getting this fight against Jimmie Rivera. It's a very highly ranked fight for him. This is going to be his 5th fight in the UFC, so it's finally about time that we start talking about this guy as a legitimate contender. He was a champion way back in ACB, but he's finally, stamped his hand into this division with a victory over John Dodson, and I think that this fight against Jimmie Rivera is going to escalate him even more. The only issue I have with this fight is the odds. Let's see if they've closed. So roughly around plus 265, plus 270 is Jimmie Rivera. If that fucking number gets to plus 300 again, I think I saw it earlier this week, it actually hit plus 300. Don't get me wrong, I think Petr Yan wins this fight. I think his consistency, his pace, his ability to keep the pressure on, his just veracity of strikes might be a little bit too much for Jimmie Rivera, who's kind of a guy that, waits a lot, explodes. Waits a lot, explodes. I think that game plan is not going to really work with a Petr Yan here. I think that his ability to his grappling that he has in his back pocket might not even be enough for Petr Yan here either. But Jimmie Rivera is still a very talented guy, you know, a showman-trained guy. You know, he has good stand-up. I'm interested to see what kind of game plan they would come in here against Petr Yan with. But I think plus 300 is too big of an underdog for Jimmie Rivera. So I may sprinkle like 0.5 units on Jimmie Rivera. I think there's definitely value for him there. But I wouldn't even be mad at seeing people, you know, parlay Petr Yan either. Personally, I'm not going to parlay him. I think he wins this fight. And I think he cements himself in that top 5 and really, you know, shouts from the mountaintops that he deserves a title shot or at least a number 1 contenders fight. But man, this guy is so fucking fun to watch, and this has been a long time coming for him. So I'm very excited for this fight. So I'm going to take Petr Yan by third round TKO, with a possible bet on Jimmie Rivera if he hits a certain number. So just keep that shit in mind. All right, next up we got the people's motherfucking main event, the possible fight of the year, Tony Ferguson against Donald Cerrone. I'm so psyched for this fight. It's not even funny. Like, I am beyond excited for this fight. Tony motherfucking Ferguson, undefeated since 2013. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 straight fights, 11 straight victories. He's coming in against Donald Cerrone, who has had a bit of a resurgence since he had his kid, who's rattled off 3 straight wins over Mike Perry, Alexander Hernandez, and most recently Al Iaquinta. This is a very dangerous fight for Donald Cerrone. You know, this is a fight where Tony Ferguson possesses that exact kryptonite to a Donald Cerrone, which is pressure in your face, constant striking, don't let Cowboy get comfortable. I'm interested to see if this new kind of Donald Cerrone that we're seeing has the tools to adjust to what Tony Ferguson might be able to present. Because technically and skill-wise, you know, Donald's the sharper guy. Donald is the sharper striker. I think on the ground, you got to give the advantage to Tony Ferguson. But in the striking, you know, pure striking, you got to give it to Donald Cerrone. Tony Ferguson is weird and unorthodox and, you know, can throw shit from anywhere. But Donald Cerrone is going to be the crisper striker, the one throwing shots down the middle, the one throwing the better kicks. But it's all, for me, it's all going to come down to Tony Ferguson's pressure and staying in Donald Cerrone's face. I don't think he's going to allow Donald Cerrone to get off. And I think he's actually going to push and break Donald Cerrone. I'm actually going to be taking Tony Ferguson to win it in the second round via TKO, maybe even a Darce choke finish. I could definitely see that. But I have 2 units on Tony Ferguson at minus 132. I think there's definite value there for him. Unfortunate for everybody who take Tony Ferguson at minus 200. I definitely saw some Donald Cerrone money coming in, you know, because I don't think it should be that wide. But I do think there's a ton of value on Tony Ferguson at like minus 135, minus 140. I wouldn't even be surprised to see it get better, but I had to take my shot at minus 132 because I thought that was just too good of a number. I just had to fucking take it. So I have 2 units on Tony Ferguson. My only concern, again, here is, you know, just Tony Ferguson mental state. Where the fuck is it? You know, all the shit that he's had to go through since his last fight against Anthony Pettis. But I'm thinking that we're going to get the actual real Tony Ferguson in there. The one that fucking calls out McNugget and calls out fucking Kalabib and all those guys. A victory over Donald Cerrone here, almost absolute. No, it fucking guarantees him a title shot over Dustin Poirier and Khabib after they fight in September. So I'm taking Ferguson by second round KO, maybe even submission. But unfortunate loss for Donald Cerrone here. But I think it's Tony Ferguson's time. He's going to keep it motherfucking going. All right. Co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko against Jessica Ai. I'm not going to go over this too much because we all know that Valentina Shevchenko is going to win. I got her in the second round. I think she's going to win by TKO. You know, Jessica Ai, she's just so sloppy, man. The Katlyn Chookagian fight, when she won that fight, she acted like she won the motherfucking lottery. The lottery. It's ridiculous that she thought she won that. You know, she was that happy. It's ridiculous that she was happy about that fight and that victory. You know, that fight was way too close. You know, she was very slow in that fight compared to what Valentina Shevchenko is going to bring. You know, she leaves herself open. Her blitz are very bad. I think that's where Valentina Shevchenko is going to catch her. When Jessica opens up a little bit, I think Valentina's one of her straight shots is just going to land on fucking Ai's nose and it's going to drop her. Ai's nose is face. It's weird just saying Jessica all the fucking time. Regardless, I think that Valentina is just going to land heavy shots on her, and it's going to be too much for Jessica in that second round, and we're going to see a TKO victory for Valentina. There's no need to go into this fight. Jessica is not a live underdog. Don't even fucking bother. Next up, we got Henry Cejudo against Marlon Moraes. Main event of the night. Phenomenal fight in terms of styles. I probably would have gone a different way in terms of, making a new champion since the whole TJ Dillashaw thing that went down. Yeah, man. I was kind of torn on this fight at first. I think that Cejudo is very talented and he's obviously getting better. He's gotten better since his Joseph Benavidez loss. He's beaten Wilson Hayes, Sergio Perez, Demetrius Johnson, obviously, and then that 32-second demolishing of TJ Dillashaw. However, he has a different opponent in Marlon Moraes here, who is a guy who is also coming into his own. It was a very unfortunate loss that he took to Rafael Assunção in his UFC debut. It was a split decision loss. Could have easily gone his way. However, he's rattled off 4 straight wins since that, as well as revenging that loss to Rafael Assunção in a very dominant manner via guillotine choke in the first round. And I think that he is most deserving of a title shot for sure. And I think that he is actually going to claim the bantamweight title after this as well. I think that he beats Henry Cejudo. I think he's the better striker. I think that he's the more crisp striker. I think he's the more powerful striker. He has very good takedown defense. As just a martial artist or a mixed martial artist, I think he may get taken down a time or two against Cejudo, but I don't think he'll have much trouble getting back to his feet. So at most those takedowns might just win Henry Cejudo a round or two. But I think that Marlon Moraes' pace and his striking is what's going to be the downfall for Henry Cejudo here. I think that Marlon Moraes is going to be able to knock him out probably in the third round. And I think we begin the Marlon Moraes era, man. I think that he is the real fucking deal. There's a reason he was ruling the WSOF the way that he did. And I think that, his precision striking, his takedown defense, just his constant improvement as well. I think he's just very solid. It's hard for me to see how Henry Cejudo wins this fight other than, being able to get down Marlon Moraes and holding him down for 5 rounds. I think he's going to have a lot of trouble on the feet. Marlon Moraes is definitely the better striker. Cejudo has grown definitely as a striker more so, but I don't think that the levels are the same in terms of striking here. And I think that Marlon Moraes is definitely going to have the advantage. And I think that he wins. Simple. I don't have too much to break down on that fight because it simply comes down to 2 things for either guy. Will Marlon Moraes be able to stop the takedowns? And will he be able to, implement his effective striking game plan? Or will Henry Cejudo be able to get this fight to the ground? And will Henry Cejudo's chin hold up against whatever Marlon Moraes is throwing? And I'm kind of leaning more so on the Marlon Moraes side, which is why I have 1.5 units at -125 on Marlon Moraes, because I think there's plenty of value on Marlon Moraes, anything better than -130. So I'll definitely hit that. No more than 2 units, though, I would recommend. So, yeah. I'm going to take Marlon Moraes for a 3rd round TKO, and then Cejudo just goes back down to 125 and hopefully keeps that division around because he is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime athlete, but I think he should just keep his ass down at 125 and then Marlon Moraes do his thing at 135. Bam! That's UFC 238, bitches. That felt like a nice one to finally get through. It's 9 o'clock. I got to get the fuck home. I got work in the fucking morning, but 2 things I wanted to do before getting out of here. The first, we're going to do a motherfucking Lock of the Night giveaway. I got a bunch of mugs. I'll put the link for the tweet of the picture that I sent out of all the mugs that I have to give away to you guys. A bunch of them have just, famous MMA quotes. I think I still have "Are You There, Pussy?" I want to fuck Chuck. I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. Shit like that. I have all these on Lock of the Night mugs. I want to give them away to you guys. So every fucking UFC pay-per-view, I'm going to be doing a giveaway. And it's a pay-per-view, so I'm doing a giveaway. This one is going to be specifically for YouTube. So if you want to enter, all you have to do is comment down below. Give me, for UFC 238, give me 1 winner and their method of victory and round. If you get it on the dot, you will be thrown into a draw with other people who have gotten their correct pick, and the winner of that draw will get the mug. So I will announce the winner on. I'll probably just do it on my Twitter, and then message that person directly through YouTube to get them their prize, because we don't have a UFC event after this until UFC Greenville, I think it is, which is not next week, but the week after that. So no lock of the night no Lock-Cast next week. So I will announce the winner probably on the Sunday after the fights here. But simple. All you do once again, comment below this video on YouTube. If you're listening to this on a podcast or something on Spotify, Stitcher, or anything like that, head over to my YouTube page, comment below regarding, again, your winner, their method of victory, and which round they do it in. Simple. All right? Winner gets a mug. And again, the link for the picture is going to be in the description below as well, so make sure you guys check that out. And lastly, I'm repping my guys, Grant's MMA, Rival Boxing, Toronto. I used to work for these guys back in the day. Still keep in touch with the head coach, Ryan Grant, RG, one of the biggest mentors in my life growing up. I spent a lot of time with him. The coolest motherfucking guy you'll ever know, and probably one of the best coaches that not a lot of people know about. He mainly focuses on boxing. However, he has a lot of MMA guys at his gym too who are making sounds in the local scene here and will eventually be in the UFC. But this weekend, he has a big task ahead of him, as one of his main proteges, and Steve Mr. Rose, is going to be going up against Triple G Gennady Golovkin. Big fight for him. I know that Steve Rose is a huge underdog here, but that guy possesses a ton of skill. So I'm not calling an upset here, but don't be surprised if he pulls off the victory somehow. We saw a huge upset here against Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here, but I think that Steve Rose possesses the skills to make this a competitive fight and possibly win some sort of decision here. I don't expect him to get a finish, but I think he will be in the fight for a good amount of time. But big shout out to my guys. They're a big fight for them, and it's only bigger things coming ahead from there. So next we're doing the Combatosaurs. Actually, we're going to be doing on Thursday. So today's Tuesday. In 2 days, we're going to be back in here, me and Tony, doing Combatosaurs, going over UFC Stockholm, going over whatever the fuck went over in the last 2 weeks, and also looking ahead to UFC 238, and the cards coming up ahead as well. I think we have Bellator next weekend as well, so we'll probably cover that a little bit too. So, like, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about the Combatosaurs. Let me know what you guys think about the bets. Baby, that's it. That's pretty much it. Like, comment, subscribe, do all this shit. Hit me on Twitter at MMA LOTN. Check out the website, MMALOTN.ca. I'm out of here.